Hey, what's happening, y'all? This is Chas Bronxson, and it's so motherfucking cool to listen to So Booking Cool whenever you get a chance, like I do.
Welcome to So Booking Cool. I'm Jewel B, and today I'm so thrilled because today's guest is the CEO of his very own independent record company, M.O.U.N Records. He is Chas Bronxson. Chas Bronxson, thank you so much for joining So Booking Cool today. How's it going?
Oh, man, it's going great, Jewel. I'm happy to be on with you right now.
Well, thank you so much. That's awesome. So just before we started our interview, I know we were having a conversation about your name and how some people tend to mix it up and call you Chas when it's Charles, you know. So explain how people have been misconstruing it.
Yeah, it's fairly simple. My name is Charles, and it's a play on the actor Charles Bronson's name. I'm from the Bronx, and rather than say Bronson, I say Bronxson, as in the son of the Bronx. But people misconstrue it where they think I'm Chaz. They think the spelling is Chaz. But usually Chaz is with a Z. Mine is with an S. Right. And C-H-A-S is really an abbreviation of Charles. So you can just easily, you could just say Charles Bronxson.
Hey, there we go. Charles Bronxson. That's right. And it is spelled B-R-O-N-X-S-O-N. That's right. So
right.
How did your life lead up to you becoming the CEO of your very own record label, Charles?
When I couldn't get a decent record deal or recording deal with a major record label, and even an independent record label, because they always offered a contract that just didn't seem right. And then I wound up working with a young artist by the name of Haley Smith, and we did some material together, and I wanted to put it out immediately, and that required me to just hurry up and incorporate the label that I started sometime before that. I just never made it official, so I just went on and I just incorporated and made a label.
Wow. You mentioned the contract. What was up with the contract? Because I know we do hear so much about, you know, those deals, those shady deals in the music industry.
Well, the contracts, they all seem to benefit the record label only and not the artist. They all seem like you would just get a little bit of upfront money right then, and the money would carry you for a little bit. But then for the life of the material, the record company it was structured in a way where the record company was going to receive all of the residuals and for life, like it would be ongoing. And I just didn't like that. And I was getting offers ever since I was a teenager, and I just never signed. I'll never forget when I took the first contract that I was offered to an attorney, and the attorney looked at it and said, yeah, okay, this is a standard rip-off contract. I never forget those words. A standard rip-off contract. And then when I was fortunate enough to work at one of the major record labels in their filing department, you know, I had like a summer job, and I just happened to be in the department where I got a chance to look at all of the contracts that the major artists had signed, and it was just horrible, the percentages that I saw that they were getting, and it just stuck with me. I never forgot that. And so whenever I was offered any kind of deal after that, I thought about how those artists were getting screwed, and I compared what they were getting to what I was being offered, and it was like the same thing. And I said, nah, this never felt good signing it. So what I did is I just kept on creating, because I'm just naturally a creative person. You know, music runs through my veins. I just kept writing and creating and putting the material that I was coming up with in the vault until later on. You know, that mysterious later. You don't really have any plan for later, but it just got down to a point when it was kind of imperative that I started my own imprint so that I could put my stuff out the way that I wanted to. And then when I started working with Haley Smith, it just expedited it that much faster and just made me just get it over with and do it out of necessity.
So one of your biggest inspirations is Stevie Wonder, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And what is it about Stevie Wonder, aside from the obvious, that resonates with you?
He's definitely, I would say, my biggest influence and inspiration musically. He's probably the reason that I even started doing music, because it's something about his music that resonated with me when I was a kid. Like his cadence, his vocal inflections, the riffs and the runs that he did. It was like, how did he do that? And I would just listen to his songs over and over. Like, I couldn't figure it out. But I knew that somehow I had to be a part of that. I used to try to learn his riffs. And I was just amazed at what he was able to do vocally. And that's what kind of drew me in to the music thing, where I wanted to do it. I was too shy to even try to sing anything in front of anybody. But when hip-hop music came out, that's when I really started, like, messing around with being in the music. Not necessarily in the music business, but being an artist. Like I would rap with my friends. We 9, 10 years old doing the same things they used to do in the 50s, where they would stand on the corner singing doo-wop. Only this was hip-hop. And with hip-hop, there's this thing where it's taboo for you to recite lyrics that you didn't write. If it was found out that you recited lyrics that you didn't write and it was somebody else that written it, you get laughed out of the hood. You get dissed up and down the block. It's like, you a biter. And they wouldn't even give you a chance to even attempt to rhyme again, because people will always reflect on that time when you was biting off of somebody. So how do we know you're not biting now? So with that principle in mind, it kind of got me into writing and the importance of writing your own stuff. And then that just went over into the R&B, the melodic thing that I naturally had in my blood. And I started writing not only rap routines, but singing routines for my group. And then before you know it, I amassed a real considerable volume of material. And through the years, that volume, it got to the point where it was like, it was no way that I was going to be able to put all of that stuff out on my own. So then I started considering writing for other people. And then it got to the point where it is right now, where I'm, a songwriter. I can write for myself or others.
Is there a major difference between writing songs that are for yourself and then writing songs for other artists?
Not really. Not really. I mean, I guess I would say yes. I guess the answer would be yes, in that when you write for yourself, you're usually writing from experience, or you're writing vicariously through the experience of others. And when you're writing for other people, you can use that same technique of writing vicariously through others, but not necessarily the personal aspect. If anything, you would talk to the artist and find out what their perspective is or vantage point is on a particular subject. And then write from that angle, like how they would see it. Like, for instance, like if I wrote for a young, like a teenager or something like that, of course I wouldn't write it from my vantage point because I don't see it like that. But if I listen to what the teenager has to say and use the vernacular that they're using at that given time, then I can put it into lyrical expression for them. But it's just a thing of paying attention to what they're trying to say and then using your word craft or the way that you put words together so that they can express it in a fly way.
Let's talk about your artists. First of all, how did you know that you wanted to sign, like Haley, for example, the teen sensation Haley Smith? And you also have New York, and then there's Group H.U.G.S, right?
Well, Group H.U.G.S is a project. As far as with Haley, I knew that, when I started working with her, she was 13. And I kind of, worked with her to kind of get a feel for what she was able to do, what her range was vocally, because she kind of had a little mature sound, a sound like beyond her years. She had this like tone that it sounded like like an adult, but you could tell she was a kid in there. So it was real unusual, but it was fun trying to work with that and craft something that would really be tight in a song. And over a period of time, we had done like about 3 or 4 songs. And I was trying to do the soundtrack. There's a YouTube guy named Tommy Sotomayor invited me to do the scoring for a documentary that he was trying to put together called A Fatherless America. And around that time, I had met Haley, and she was like 13. And I was trying to figure out a way to bring her into that scoring of that documentary that I was working on. Mm-hmm. And so the concept, being that the documentary was going to be called A Fatherless America, I wanted to talk about how, like, a young girl would feel being without her father. And so that's the angle that we went at it from with the song I Miss My Daddy by Haley. And we shot the video when she was around 14 or so, going on 15, something like that. And she had a certain look, and I wanted to hurry up and shoot it at that time because I didn't want to lose her youthful appearance. Mm-hmm. And so it kind of sped things up. I kind of pushed the envelope to get everything moving a little quicker. And that's the reason that I just went on and signed her at the time that I did, because I knew I wanted to put that out. I wanted to record it, mm-hmm. and I wanted to put it out in a timely manner while we still had her looking like that. And so that's how we wound up with Haley.
And our new single, go on.
We put the video out, I Miss My Daddy, last year, and it did really well. And then I put it on YouTube, and it got some great response also. And we didn't put it out on radio until this year, when I was able to secure a radio arrangement. I did like a digital radio release back in April, and she was getting spins, like really good spins. And the song went to number 14 on the top 150 digital radio chart. And currently that song it's got like over 500,000 streams on Spotify. And then the follow-up song, We're Gonna Be Alright, the title, that one went to number 3 on the top 150 digital radio chart.
Yeah, and I have to add, because that's a big deal, especially when you understand that the chart has a maximum of 150 artists on that chart. And she placed number 14. Like, that's huge. That's major. What do you think it is about Haley Smith why do you think people feel connected to her?
I think because the video is believable. When you look at her performance, you feel it. It doesn't feel like she's acting. She channeled the experience that a lot of girls are living through her performance. And we talked about it. I mean, it was planned. We talked about how we were going to attack it. And it was, my chance to direct another artist for the first time. And I told her what we were trying to capture. I gave her the scenario, like I would give her a scenario and tell her this is what we're trying to capture. And we just went into that moment and we just put it down. Whenever the camera started rolling, I didn't know that she could act. Mm-hmm. I didn't know. She's just like, that triple threat that people talk about. She can dance, she can sing, and she can act also. I didn't know that until the camera started rolling. And she was knocking out the performances in like 2 or 3 takes, if not just one. Mm-hmm. And, we was just standing on the side looking at it, and it was like, wow, action. And then she would get into it, and then when the tape stopped rolling, it was like, everybody would be like, damn, wow, okay. They felt it. So, usually if you feel a performance right there, you can feel it, you got it. But if there's any kind of reservations you have about it, it's always good to keep taping until you have something to work with during the editing process. But her vocal ability at that time is what had me interested in working with her. And then the fact that she was easy to coach in the studio as well as direct during the video shoot, that just made everything even more better, or more better, as we say. Because you can have an artist that has good talent and good vocal range and all of that, but if they can't be managed or directed, or that they have a hard time listening, or they're not patient, then it's not going to work. And I work really hard, and I know it could probably be difficult for an artist to work with a producer like me in the studio, but with the end result, they're going to thank me, or they'll be happy, because I'm just real relentless about getting the performance that I'm trying to get across. You know, you tell her to do a takeover, she'll do it. You tell her it could be 6 times, she'd do it. Sometimes you wouldn't even have to tell her, because when she would begin the take, she would know, because she has a good ear. And like, we'd just look at each other and be like, oh, you know, you don't even have to play it back. I already know. Just do it over. And an artist like that is a producer's dream, because you know you're not going to be in there worrying about, well, if the person, you know, in a minute they're not going to feel right, and they're going to have an attitude. They're going to be sucking their teeth and looking at their watch or their cell phone, acting like they're ready to go, and they'd rather not be there. There was none of that with Haley. So it was a good experience working with her.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, is that an ideal artist? Because it sure sounds like it. And based on everything else that you've also said, Chas, I just want to know, what are your thoughts on work ethic and, like, being relentless as far as team no sleep goes? That whole belief that no sleep, it's work, 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 go, 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 go. How do you feel about that? Do you agree with it?
I agree with it to the extent that you have to keep going as long as you have the drive, but you have to respect the importance of rest. When I'm in the studio and I'm working, my passion will drive me to work from, like, I'll get up in the morning and get myself together, and after breakfast, I'll sit right down. I'll go and start working on something, you know, in the studio. You go to the studio, sit down at the keyboard, and then let's say it's like 12 o'clock in the afternoon when you start. And the next thing you know, when you look up, Saturday Night Live is coming on TV. And you're still sitting there because the creative juices are flowing. You have to respect the creative juice. And when they're flowing like that, you can't go to sleep. But after you lay everything down, you get all of that creativity out of you. Your passion wants you to sit there and listen to it and try to figure out a way to arrange it. But when you see yourself saying, all right, I'm going to play it back and I'm going to listen to it again. And then you get to like the 16th time that you're listening to it. And then your head is down on the piano listening. And then you wake up and the song is like 45 minutes into it because the song played, it just went and faded to black. And it was just, you just see the numbers rolling. You know it's time to stop and go get you some rest and then get up and listen to it again with a fresh set of ears. And if you're doing video, a fresh set of eyes. Rest is really important because you can get to the point of overkill to where you're not listening to it properly, or you're not reading or looking at a performance properly. And then that's when you start missing things and overlooking vital pieces of what you're trying to put together.
And should artists be up early in the morning too?
Artists should get up at 2:15 in the morning if that's where when they get their inspiration. Even if it's to get up and record the idea that just came to you, because it's so easy to forget. And you should always have some kind of digital recorder that you walk around with. I mean, your cell phone is perfect for that. You have voice memo, a voice memo app in your phone. You could be on the street. You get an idea. You pull that cell phone out. I mean, I used to carry around a digital recorder before, the cell phone, because so many times I would have a brilliant idea, and I knew it was brilliant, and I would toy around with it in my mind for a little while, walking around with it, just singing that melody, and then somebody will come by in their car bumping Cardi B. I don't want you, he's a stripper, he's a rapper. And I'm listening to that crazy little cadence that she got. And it's a real catchy song. Or they may come around and play something by Chris Brown or anybody. And you start singing that song or getting into it, and then you try to remember what you were thinking about. That melody that was in your head, and it's gone. It's gone. And that really hurts. So it got to a point where I was like, I got to carry around something so that I can capture the idea. Or or write it, even if it's not melodic or anything. It could be a lyric or an idea for a script or a movie, anything. You got to write it down, and if it's a melody, you got to recite it. And that way you won't lose it. You can always refer to it later.
Absolutely. It makes a lot of sense. And M.O.U.N Records does stand for Makings of Unforgettable New Records. In addition to producing new artists and talent, this company is also a way to provide opportunities for disadvantaged youth who want to get involved in music. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. Well, we have a not-for-profit that we're getting ready to set up where we're going to give kids an opportunity to learn hip-hop and poetry. And we'll discuss things like fatherhood and just make things really good for the kids coming up. So they have something to look to, an outlet, so a place to express whatever it is that they're dealing with in life, just to make things better and get the idea of doing your own thing. That's what M.O.U.N Records is about, the idea of doing my own thing and being comfortable with that.
When you say being comfortable with that, what are you...
Comfortable with the idea of being independent and relying on yourself and not having that fear that you can't do it on your own. So a lot of people that have good ideas, but they've never been taught how to express that and go the distance to making their ideas or bringing them into fruition. They always feel like they got to have somebody else. I heard so many people say, I got this idea, but it's all about OPM, other people's money. And I'm like, where is this coming from? And they never hear anything about that idea that they had because they're waiting for somebody else to invest in them. I would have never been able to get the stuff that you see right now on YouTube, all the videos that I did so far. And there's other ones that are coming, stuff that you didn't even see yet. It's just on deck, waiting to come out. We got to launch them properly. But you wouldn't even see the ones that are on YouTube right now had I not had that vigor and that drive to do it on my own, which is the inspiration behind the term M.O.U.N Records. Yeah, it's an acronym for Makings of Unforgettable New Records, but it really drives the point that I do my own thing. And I had some people to look at as inspiration to doing that, because I didn't, when I was trying to get those record deals before, the thought of doing this myself didn't even cross my mind. It was always like, you got to get it signed. You got to get signed. You got to get a record deal. You got to get a contract. But what if nobody gives you a contract? A lot of people can't get past that right there. If I don't get a contract, I'm not doing anything. Not to mention the people who lose faith in their dream or their drive or their ability. Some people got some really good vocal skills, but the fact that they're not signed, they start to second guess their own ability. So with my outfit, I'm trying to give youth an outlet so that they can see that they can express themselves in such a way that it will enable them to grow.
Mm-hmm. What does go into, or what's one of the ways that somebody can start their own record label instead of waiting for that opportunity to come to them?
Well, you basically have to incorporate yourself and understand that you're going to have to employ people to assist you with the ongoings of the label, as far as like when you release some material. A great song is a great song is a great song. But after you do the final mix and you get the song mastered, that's all it is. It's just a greatly mixed and mastered song. How are you going to get it to people? And that involves marketing, that involves promotion, it involves publicity, it involves managing the artist, and that kind of stuff has to be factored in. And you have to prepare yourself for sometimes taking a course so that you know how to do those things. But you can't do it all by yourself. Because if you are, you could do a real huge, I could say, bulk of it, but not when you're on the creative side like I am. See, I'm not just a record label CEO, which I'm only out of necessity, but I'm more creative. I'm a creative person. That's what got me into this thing. Mm-hmm. And to be a creative person, you need time to be creative. And if you're trying to wear all the hats, you're not going to have time for creativity. So you have to learn and appreciate the beauty of bringing people on board who see your vision and want to be a part of your vision. Not just hiring people because the people want to get a paycheck. You got people out there, you got to be careful of that. And when you get your feet wet, you'll kind of learn how to identify the people who are just there for money versus the people who really can complement what you're trying to do and want to be there. So it's just a thing of being willing to incorporate yourself and learn a little bit about the business. Don't feel like you got to know everything before you foray into that arena. Mm-hmm. A lot of it is just basic, and then you just learn as you go. If you got a passion for it and you see the importance of doing it, mm-hmm. you will learn as you go, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. You're supposed to make mistakes.
So what is your opinion on age? Is someone ever too old to want to start their own record company or whatever their dream is?
Well, yeah, you'll be too old to do certain things if you allow other people to tell it. People, everybody have all kind of restrictions on when you should or shouldn't do something. But I've heard of several situations where people, as far as in that entertainment industry, they didn't get their quote unquote break until they were in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. I think Louis Armstrong didn't have his first hit until he was 62 or something like that. And it was just mind-boggling to see that kind of stuff. You have to just be resilient to what people have to say. You got to have a tough skin. You can't let that get to you. Just continue doing it as long as you have a passion for it. And if you think all it takes is for you to be, a teenager to be successful, then, you go and put one of them teenagers out there that have no vocal ability. Put them out, see what happens. To a degree, yes, it's a youth-driven industry, and that's where the bulk of the money is spent. But who said that that's the only thing that you could be, was an artist? There's so many different facets of the music industry for you to just consider being an artist. So many different things you can do creatively.
What about someone who's trying to get into it? Because it seems like internships are a good way to enter an industry and as well, and specifically entertainment. I know you had an internship, right, when you were in your youth?
Yeah, when I used to work at the record company. Yeah, internship is an excellent way to get involved with the industry because you get hands-on with the field that you want to participate in, and you get to see how it's really run, how things operate. Leo Cohen was an intern at Def Jam, and then before you know it, he took over Def Jam. You never feel like being an intern is beneath you because there's so much you can learn, And if you really want to do something, you wouldn't mind being an intern at an organization or company that will provide you an opportunity to learn about what you're trying to get into. You would have no reservations about it. You would be glad to do that. You would be looking forward to the first day when you start that internship.
As an artist yourself and songwriter, and also with being a CEO, what are your thoughts on the current state of the music industry?
I think that the internet was the biggest blessing that could ever happen for anybody aspiring to get into the music industry. So much that the record industry is no longer what it used to be. That's how powerful the internet is. At one time, the only way you could get your material out was through a record label. Nobody would hear you if a record company didn't sign you. But the way it is now, you can put your own thing out and build up your own following. Technology has it in such a way where you can work with people who are not in the same location where you are, geographical location. You could be in different parts of the country, the world, and work with people and be very creative. And I wouldn't curse it because it is what it is. As long as you still know how to, some people will make an issue about using a synthesizer, keyboard. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, you should play a grand piano. It's not real music. You're using a keyboard controller to get sounds that are not authentic to a real piano. As long as you understand theory and you know how to put those keys together and put a good song together, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter how you put it together. You did it, and it's moving people. That's all that matters. Technology makes it possible for people to do things that were not for technology. They would just have a hunger and thirst to do. You got me thinking now. Books. Look at what books, what books, because you into books. Now, there are people who, they like to keep it, as organic as possible, and they're like true book readers. They don't want a Kindle. They ain't thinking about a Kindle, right?
Yeah, they want the hard copy, the actual book.
Hard copy, hard cover, that kind of thing. And then Kindle comes out, and next thing you know, you start seeing Barnes and Noble's closing all over the place. Why? Because technology enabled people who, let's say, couldn't go out to Barnes and Noble. Let's say that they were homebound and they couldn't get up and move around that easily. Technology made it so that they can order a book online and have it shipped to them. That's one aspect of technology. Then they took it further with that Kindle, to where now you can carry 10 books with you. Say you're not sure which book you want to read. You got 20 of them. You can carry 30 of them with you in that Kindle and make your mind up as you're going, as you're on your way, on the go, which one you're going to read. Then when you open that Kindle, you have the ability to expand the text, the font, and make it bigger. Whereas a regular book, that font is one way. It's thick. With the Kindle, you can expand it, and it's not so difficult for you to read it. And then you can adjust the brightness of the Kindle to make your reading experience that much more pleasurable to you. And then as you're reading, if you get to a word that you don't understand, you can tap that word, and now you got a dictionary in there that can give you not only the definition, but synonyms, so that you can understand what that sentence is trying to say. Whereas with a regular book, you can just be like, I think it means that. Let me just keep going. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Well, with technology, how you have to appreciate the advantages of it.
Right.
Instead of just looking at it like, I don't like change and resist it. Look at it. See what it can offer you.
So what do you think of the blogs then? Because people, they make it into a negative thing as well, like in terms of technology, the social media and stuff, because there's certainly advantages, as you just, pointed out.
I think people are going to talk regardless of whether they have an opportunity to send messages like that or not. The thing that you have to do is or put out the best effort you can to keep your business out of the public. I'm not saying that you got to be good, because one person's definition of good is somebody else's definition of bad. So you got to do you, but you got to keep whatever you don't want people to twist around and turn into a negative thing. You got to guard it with your life. People are going to gossip. You ain't never going to be able to control that. It's always going to be somebody that disagrees with you and want to berate you and say negative things about you just because they can't get you to do what they want you to do, and use it to your advantage. Social media is a good thing. It definitely can be a negative, but it's like, man, I think they have to have training classes for people. But, with that social media bullying and stuff like that, I'm assuming that's what you're talking about as far as the blog.
Yeah, exactly. When you think of the shade room.
If you don't have an ability to not be affected by stuff like that, and what people say about you bothers you, don't even have a Facebook account or Twitter. Don't even do it until you build up some degree of resiliency to that stuff. Especially, like, if you learn how to reply back to the BS that comes at you, that's a good thing. When I was coming up, it was always somebody talking about you, or that would snap on you. If you came to school with some skips on, it was over. They would get you. And it was some people that they didn't recover from that. But then you had other people who learned how to snap back, and they were real good at it, to the point where you wouldn't want to mess with them because they'd get you. They'd go in on you. And it was all love, but you would just tear them apart. You would roast them. If you're able to do that, then go on with it. And that means that you're not worrying about what people say about you. And there's a persona and an air that exudes from you when you're around people, and they see how you're not affected by the stuff that you can say to them or will try to say about them. So they in a lot of cases won't even try it with you when they know it ain't gonna work. You can't help people talking. They're gonna talk. So if you can accept that, then by all means, go forward with it. But until then, stay off of social media.
But see, also, how do you know when to let people know that it's not affecting you versus sometimes you have to nip some things in the bud, you know? Like sometimes you have to let them know that it's not cool. So how do you differentiate?
Oh, no. I mean, by all means, address it. Don't let it just go without dealing with it. But it's certain things where it's like, I'm not even going to dignify that. I'm going to let that go.
Yeah.
Because it's just, what are you going to do? Like, every time somebody says something about you, you're going to get on Twitter, post something? Nah. There's going to be some people that just want to bait you and get you to talk. And you'll know how to identify that stuff. If you notice, like, Jay-Z and Beyonce, you don't see them on Twitter addressing everything that people say about them. Let them talk. People are going to concoct all kind of stories about you, but they're stories. There's no evidence of it happening. And until they can produce some kind of evidence that it happened, it's just hearsay. And intelligent people are not going to even bother with that stuff. But the National Enquirer has been out for 50-some years, forever it seems like.
Yeah.
And as long as there's people who have an appetite for that crap, they're going to keep on selling newspapers at the cash register of your favorite supermarket. It's always going to be there. So as long as people are always going to want to hear that stuff is going to be there, you can't worry about it. But certain things, it's like, if you don't want that rumor to get out of hand and then you see it's getting out of hand, you can address it. There's nothing wrong with addressing it. One, you don't have to go on a campaign, like a media tour, talking about it. Nah, you say it once. There's enough media outlets out here where you can say it one time with the right media outlet and everybody will know what's going on. You don't have to keep addressing that. Like if somebody accuses you of, like I'm equating what I was just talking about. Let's say as a guy, right? You got 20 women accusing you of impregnating. Am I going to have to give a blood sample to every woman that comes up and accuses me of impregnating them? No. Certain things I would address. Like, okay, I noticed like some artists will, like something will come out about their sexuality or something like that. You know, you see this kind of stuff in the media. And some artists won't even address it. I don't know, some of them, I guess they still like want to be or appear to be ambiguous. But straight up, as a guy, you want to nip that in the bud. You want to be like, nah, look here. I'm going to tell you once, and I ain't going to keep repeating it. I ain't that way. And that's it. There's nothing more to talk about. Instead of letting that just fester and doing things to make people, you know, to play with the public. I'm hearing about, like, some artists will plant stories to kind of generate a buzz or something like that. I don't know. I'm just not, I ain't like that. To each his own if that's what they want to do. But I mean, just certain things you can address. Other things you just let it ride because people are going to talk. And you have to determine when or what situation will call for you to address it or not, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, 100%. You know, with you saying that, it reminds me of one of the greatest to ever have done it, the late Michael Jackson. Like, I heard that he kept his sexuality ambiguous. Like, did you ever hear that? Because he didn't want to offend a certain portion of his fan base.
No. I actually saw an interview that Mike did.
Oh, okay.
Where I see that probably got out of hand because he didn't address it hard enough. But he did address it early on in his career. I remember him saying something like, I was reading, I think, one of them magazines back in the day, and he said that he first learned of the rumor that he was gay when he was in a department store shopping, and a young girl, a fan, came up to him and she was like, Michael, it's you. And then she just started crying. She was like, no, it ain't so. Say it ain't so. And she just started bawling. And he was like, what? And she said that the rumor was that he was a homosexual or something, or gay, you know. And he said that was the first time that he had heard of that. And he addressed it. I remember reading it with my eyes, so that's how I could say with conviction that, nah, he didn't just let it ride like that. And he said that his reply to that, he said, I'm sure we have a lot of gay fans and people who support me, but I'm not gay. I remember seeing that. So he addressed it early on. But the Jackson that I would say left that ambiguous and never addressed it would be Freddie Jackson. Because I remember reading an interview with him, and he just kind of left it out there. He wouldn't address it. He was just like, he's just gonna let that hang over and let people think what they want to think. For whatever his reason was for doing that, all I know is that as a guy, me, I ain't letting that rock. I'm gonna let you know. Nah, that ain't how I get down. I respect other people's right to get down like that if that's what they want to do, but that's got nothing to do with me. So kill that. But, again, that's me. I'm not saying that Freddie Jackson's way of handling that was good, bad, right or wrong. He handled it like that for whatever his reasons were,
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'll say on that.
Okay. So
I'm laughing.
No, you have quite the personality. It's just funny sometimes, but yeah, no, I definitely hear what you're saying though, Chas. Are these conversations that you have with your artists in terms of, ignore the rumors? What we just said, like, do you talk to them? Like, you can't pay attention to that negativity and all of that.
Well, I would tell any fellow artist because, I always look at people as, artists as my contemporary, people who are trying to do the same thing that I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're equally yoked in that case, because we're trying to do the same thing. And the same way that I would handle something, I would share that with them. Like you can't get wrapped up in what people say. Now, the only time you should really concern yourself about what everybody is saying is if everybody is saying that they don't like your talent or what you're trying to showcase to them. Then it's time to say, look, I got to do some self-evaluating and look at what I'm trying to do and consider changing it, doing it differently. Maybe it is a good idea that you're trying to do, but you're not expressing it right. So you got to go back to the drawing board and reproduce it so that it'll get through to the people. You don't keep doing something when it's proven to not work. It's foolish to think that you can keep doing the same thing the same way and then get a different result. So
is artist development important?
Hell yeah. Oh yeah. Artist development is extremely important because just like a baby is not going to know how to be mature and do things that will keep them out of trouble, and they have to be guided and steered by a mature adult that will teach them how to avoid danger. An artist doesn't know how to avoid the pitfall. And they have to be developed. Their talent has to be nurtured. And as long as they're willing to listen to someone who, one, has proven that they can give guidance, and two, express a sincere interest in that artist's well-being, then that artist should be willing to listen. And that's a skill in itself, learning how to listen and get development or learn how to be or take advice from someone who can help develop what you're doing or what you're trying to do. You don't just come into the world as an artist. You just fall as an artist and know how to be the best artist. That has to come from guidance, wisdom, and experience. Somebody telling you, nah, you got to do it this way. If you do it that way, this is what's going to happen, as opposed to that way. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So then what are your thoughts on when people say, oh, nowadays it seems like, at least with mainstream record labels, that these labels are looking for somebody who kind of already has a following because they don't really want to invest in the artist's development?
Well, that's because you're dealing with, you see, we're at a different time right now. Haley didn't have any following when I started working with her. She was relatively unknown. Nobody knew of what kind of talent she had at all. I was willing to work with her and develop something so that she could display it to the world and then go on with her career and do whatever it was that is carved out for her and her life and her path. I wasn't trying to look at what following she had. See, when someone has talent, you develop it, and then they'll get a following. The following will come later. The problem is we're in a time where record companies don't want to invest in nothing. There was a time where they would be willing to go out into the woods and see a promising tree, right, and invest in that tree. Break it down and develop it, polish it, and get it ready for mass consumption. Mm-hmm. So it can be presented. Put the shellac on it and everything. Have it looking really good because they developed it. They saw that natural raw talent that stood out from the other trees in that forest. And they wanted to really bring out all of the best qualities in it and magnify it. So they went out and they developed it. Now, record companies want you to bring them the shellac table. They don't want to develop anything. All they're thinking about is, I'm going to invest this amount of money and I'm going to flip it and turn it into something else. Exponentially, I'm going to grow my money with this talent that shows up at the door, ready and not raw. And that's stupid to me. That's really stupid, and it's selfish. And it also shows you that they're not really concerned with your development. All they're trying to do is flip a profit.
Yeah, it's great, that you do feel the way that you do about your artist, that you are invested in Haley. That's so wonderful. Also, what is your opinion on these talent singing competition shows like The Four and American Idol and The Voice? Do you think that those are good vehicles for aspiring artists?
No. Nope.
Yeah, I gotta ask, why not?
Well, because the only thing that you really get out of that is exposure. You don't really get any control of your life going forward. Even if you win, how many winners? I mean, from Star Search to The Voice to America's Got Talent to American Idol. How many winners went on and had, just really astronomical careers where they're still going and they're still benefiting from it financially? So if exposure and fame is what you're trying to get, that's what you're after. By all means, stand in that line with 2,000 people and spend the night outside waiting to get into that audition. Do it. But those competitions are not always based on talent. And the most talented person doesn't always win. A lot of that stuff is based on looks, manageability, quote unquote, meaning how much you're willing to go along with the program that's being placed in front of you, where you don't have any real say-so regarding your direction, if you have a direction that you'd like to go in. If you don't, then, again, get your backpacks and your sodas and your thermoses and sleep outside overnight, camp out to audition. But if you really have a vision for where you're trying to go, it's probably not a good look. It's really probably not a good look. And that's not being pessimistic. That's just being realistic.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So, again, this is So Booking Cool. We love to focus on the story as well. We realize that everyone and everything does have a story. Would you ever write a book, by the way, Chas?
Yes, I'm actually working on one right now. I'm working on two.
Oh.
But one I would like to have out by the first quarter of next year.
That's awesome. Can you reveal anything about these books, or is it too early?
It's too early right now.
Okay, well...
But it's really a serious matter. And I wouldn't even want certain people to get a head start on what I was doing.
Oh, I understand. I perfectly understand.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, well, we'll talk about it again if you will come on So Booking Cool again. Also, what are your favorite books, and are there any books that have inspired you?
Oh, man. Malcolm X, the autobiography of Malcolm X, changed my life. Man, give me a second. Revolutionary Daily Thought by M.O.U.N, huge influence and inspiration. Black Robes, White Justice by Bruce Wright. Man, a lot of them. A lot of books. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I don't know if you ever read that one.
Heard of it, but I haven't read it yet.
Yeah. Acts of Faith by Iyanla Vanzant. Serious. And I love reading biographies on entertainers. It's kind of like a book version of Unsung or Behind the Music, where you get a chance to see the stuff that they went through in their career during their climb.
I can tell that these books have definitely touched you deeply. What is it about these authors in these books that have touched you so deeply?
Well, because all of them have faced some kind of resistance during their trek to wherever they went to in their careers. Whatever heights they ascended to, they all faced some kind of impediment. And it's always interesting to read about those impediments that you face. And there always is an impediment, something to slow them down, something that it was some kind of difficulty that they had to overcome, always. And there's a common thread to what caused them to fall, the ones that fell. And like I was saying earlier, it's a fool who thinks that they can do the same thing over and over and get a different result. In other words, it's a foolish artist or someone who's aspiring to be an artist. It's foolish for them to think that they can do the same thing as an artist who got caught up in drugs or caught up with drugs or became alcoholic, and think that they themselves won't fall regardless of how high they ride and whatever they do. Just like they fell, you're going to fall. Because what is it about you that drugs won't affect you or alcohol abuse won't affect you, but it affected everybody else before you?
It's good to know that you are going to write a book, because I was thinking that it's going to reach people, definitely someone, the way that the books and the stories that you've mentioned have reached you. That's for sure.
Yeah, and that's the reason that I decided to tell that particular story.
Mm-hmm.
And share that particular chamber in my life that I experienced, what I went through during that whole fiasco, because I knew that somebody else could benefit from it, because I know that people have gone through it. I've even, people have even come to me who were wrapped up in the same situation, and it was like, man, I gotta share this. I gotta share it. I have to share it. And I'm like halfway done with that one. And it's definitely coming up. Definitely coming up.
Charles, I want to thank you so much. It's been so great talking with you, and I would love to have you come on So Booking Cool again in the future, because there's a lot to be discussed, and especially when you do your books.
You're not just saying that, right?
No, I'm not just saying that. No, I mean
that to end the conversation real smoothly.
No, I'm not even done yet. I'm not even done yet. It's just.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I would love to come back on. I'd love to come back on.
And you're not just saying that, right?
You got me. Yeah, no, I'm not just saying that. I'm serious.
We got to talk about your upcoming projects as well, that you're excited for the world to be introduced to.
Well, yeah, I'm relaunching the label and the Group H.U.G.S project. The Group H.U.G.S project came out during Black Music Month this year, and it came out with 4 videos off of the album, which is a musical documentary about black music in this country, in America, since R&B's infancy. And the relaunch is going to have material on it that didn't come out on the first release, on the first version of the release. It's going to be a video album that I'm putting out. It's going to have more stuff for you to see, a lot of content. All of the videos that are available right now that you can see, plus some unreleased stuff. It's going to be on there.
And this is on the M.O.U.N Records YouTube page, right?
Yeah, the M.O.U.N Records YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. Like you go to YouTube and you type in M.O.U.N Records, and that'll take you right to the channel, and all of the music videos will be there.
And you have a song called When They're Gone, which is an ode to Michael Jackson. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's a song that I wrote in tribute to MJ. And, some people would say that it's a little controversial the way I did it, but there's a reason for it. And, whenever I'm questioned on it, I will explain it to them. Yeah, I've gotten a lot of people would question me like, oh man, why did you do it like that? Why did you, edit like that? And I told them, and then they understood. As we celebrate another year. A godsend, how we miss them when they're gone. Ain't it amazing how we miss them when they're gone? And how we only cherish them when they're gone. Waiting for one like you in the making. We'll be waiting so long. You still shine, 'cause on the dance floor is on. From the time the DJ puts your record on. Salute. A godsend, how we miss them when they're gone. How we miss them when they're gone.
I just watched and listened to When They're Gone, the official music video that debuted in late August of this year on the M.O.U.N Records YouTube page, which is pretty much a viral video as well. You definitely have to check that out. Definitely. And if people didn't know, you're very talented.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I can see, the controversy. What is it? It's with Kanye and 50 Cent?
Yeah.
Anyway, I love the message, though, of the song, because it's true. Like, when people need to learn to give others their flowers or their roses while they're still around, it seems like that's the heartfelt message that comes from When They're Gone.
Yes, indeed. That was the whole point. When they're gone. It's just, like the lyric says, it's amazing how we profess to miss them only when they're gone, that we do that. And we should stop doing that. Just give them their praises while they're here.
Yep. By the way, do you watch, because I know you also appreciate the biographies and stuff and the behind the scenes, and it also seems like you watch Unsung as well. What is your opinion on these miniseries such as the Bobby Brown story, the New Edition miniseries? What are your thoughts on that? And would you ever want, your artists in the future to have a story play out like that about their lives and about yourself as well as an artist?
Well, it's interesting you asked about that because I just saw the Bobby Brown story about 4 nights ago. I just watched it for the first time. And I think it's extremely good for artists to be able to tell their story because nobody sees it from their vantage point. And you got to get that out. You got to share that with people, especially when you have an urge like that for people to know. I got a chance to see Bobby Brown's vision and vantage point of Whitney Houston, unlike anybody else saw it or were privy to. And it was very compelling. None of us were there, but, you can kind of do some reasoning based on the things that you've seen to kind of lean toward Bobby perhaps having told the truth. It was more him telling his truth because I don't think he revealed anything necessarily. That particular, he didn't have to go that far for you to, draw your own conclusion, but he didn't really go there. At least not the way that I see it. But, again, I'm thinking nah, I'm not going to say it. But I felt it. I felt how he felt in certain situations. I was like, man, I would feel that same way. I would have probably handled that situation the same way. Okay. Very interesting story right there. Mm-hmm. Very interesting story. But yeah, in answer to your question, I think it's real therapeutic for artists to be able to tell what their experience was. That's why you see some artists, when they do those unsung shows, they wind up crying. It's like that's stuff that was pent up in their psyche for years, and they finally get a chance to tell that story. From Stevie D sharing how he felt when his brother had passed away, to Jermaine Jackson telling how he felt like a year or so after the Jacksons, his brothers moved on to another label and became the Jacksons and left him behind. Well, not leaving him, but, well, I mean, yeah, they left him because he didn't want to leave. How he cried during their documentary. You know, M.O.U.N crying when he was talking about Miles Davis and what it was like when he was, you know, that was his jegna, his influence, his musical influence. And when Miles Davis passed away, it brought out feelings that caused him to cry. You know, people carry around these feelings for years. And then when they get in front of a camera and they start talking about their life, it comes out. It's really something good for artists to be able to do that. So it's sort of like a cleansing.
So then do you think artists should have these conversations then more regularly so they're not keeping things bottled up?
Yeah, if they want to hold on to their sanity and they want the best social life that they can have, by all means, yes. Because when you hold all that stuff in, it affects your ability to be social in certain instances. If you don't express what bothers you, how will people ever know to not do certain things or those things around you, to your family, anything, whatever it is? People, if you don't share that, people will never know.
I've always felt like some artists wanted to get certain things off of their chest, but it's like they always have to say that they are okay and everything is all right for some reason. I just, you know, when I was younger, I thought that was odd, but who tells the artists not to disclose what's happening? Because I always felt like they're being instructed not to say anything.
I don't know. I mean, it could be a range of people. It could be the family members of the artist. But in most cases, I think that it's the record label trying to protect the interest of the label and their ability to sell or market the artist, and the publicist, who in a lot of cases know better for the artist than the artist does for themselves in certain situations. Like, it'll probably be best that you don't say this or say anything to certain things or about certain things. Some artists are not socially mature. They may have the best talent when it comes to certain categories, but when it comes to the category of being social, they're not good at all. So they need somebody to advise them if they want to save their career. So all of that has to be factored in. That's an art in itself, knowing how to be social. I think 50 Cent is the most graphic example of someone who knows how to be social. He's excellent at being social. It's like he's constantly keeping himself relevant, and he knows he's a very personable individual, and that comes through in how he carries himself in the whole social media world, and even in his interviews. Not everybody has that. That's something that you have to develop.
By the way, I would love to also speak with Haley Smith sometime.
Oh, okay. That can happen.
Now, even though you dropped a ton of nuggets in the interview, again, what is the most important?
A ton of numbers?
Nuggets.
Oh, okay. Nuggets. Okay.
But what is the most important piece of advice that you can give anyone who's like wants to become a go-getter, or maybe they are and they just want something to give them another push?
Stick to what you're doing. Believe in yourself, and even if you don't believe in yourself all the way, you will become a go-getter once you continue to get the answer no from everybody who is trying to stop you from doing what it is that you want to do, or tell you, or the ones who tell you that you can't do it. Eventually you will become a go-getter, because it's going to bother you so much that you're not doing what you're born to do, that you're going to become a go-getter. Because the pain of not doing what you want to do is going to eat you up so much more than your ability to just sit and ride it out the way people want you to. And you're going to just push through the door and go get what you want.
It's well said. Well said.
If you ever get a chance to check out the videos from the Group H.U.G.S project, and you have questions about any of the videos or any other part of the project, I'd love to go through it with you.
Good. And let everyone know how they can keep up with you and M.O.U.N Records.
Okay. You can visit my website, which is www.moundrecords.com, like a picture's mound without the D, moundrecords.com, and then the same handle for my Instagram account. Definitely follow me on Instagram at M.O.U.N Records, and be sure to follow me on my Facebook and Twitter account at Chas Bronxson. That's C-H-A-S as in Sam, Bronx, son, as in son in the Bronx. Don't spell Chas Bronxson with a U on son. Chas Bronxson as in son in the Bronx. And definitely visit and subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is M.O.U.N Records, so you can see all of the videos that are posted up thus far, and subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you'll be notified immediately whenever a new video is posted up.
And Charles Bronxson, you'll definitely be back. Like,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, I look forward to it.
Okay, good. And thank you to all the listeners. And until next time, so booking cool.
Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Chas Bronxson, and Jewel be cool. And Jewel be good if you listen to Jewel be like me.